I'm Vicki Davis, Martin County Supervisor of Elections. Thank you for joining us for Project Vote History. Local residents reflect on cherished memories they have gained over the years regarding public service, the election process, and the importance of voting. Joining me today is DonPickard. Don, welcome. Thank you.
Glad to be here.
For joining us, and you are currently serving as chairman of our local Republican Executive Committee here in Martin County. Can you share a little bit of your personal background?
Well, my personal background is two things are probably relevant. First, I spent 26 years in the military, which meant I was apolitical by decree, and certainly not into local politics at all when I was in the service. And then I went from there to a corporate executive on Long Island in New York, and got the perspective there of when I moved to Florida. The fact was that people don't have as much interest in local politics if they move here from out of state, because the situation is so different. The taxes are so much lower. People, it's hard to get them impressed when their taxes have gone down by 70% when they leave New York.
Yes.
So they don't get as involved in the local politics as they might.
Well, I have some statistics that I wanted to share with you and with the viewers, because I think they're really interesting and a lot of people don't realize. Looking back in Martin County at our voter registration back to 1938, there were 1,880 registered voters in Martin County. 1,800 were registered as Democrats and 80 were registered as Republicans. I thought that was a fun, trivial fact to share. In 1980 is when the tide really shifted and Republican voters were stronger. There were more Republican voters at that point in time than Democratic voters in Martin County. In 1980, there were 38,763 registered voters. 18,828 were Republicans to 17,477 who were registered as Democrats. So that's when the real flip occurred here in Martin County. And I know you mentioned Charlie Kane earlier in a conversation that we had, and he really was instrumental in helping make that change over. Can you share a little bit about Charlie and what you know about?
Well, Charlie is sort of the father of the Republican Party of this county, certainly in my time. I've been here 20 years this month, in fact, and he was instrumental in getting me started in the Republican Party. I think also the Democratic Party changed itself too, which maybe added some emphasis into it. Now I see we're having an awful lot of independents.
A lot of no party affiliations.
A lot of NPA.
Yes, NPAs, absolutely.
And we're going to have to appeal more and more to those.
And that was a question that I have. What are some of the challenges that you face as chairman of the party locally to keep the party strong, to get people out registered to vote, and then actually taking part in the process of going to vote?
Well, I think one of our biggest challenges is getting them interested in local politics, because again, as I said, a lot of people, this is a large retirement community. I live in one, and quite frankly, many of the people that I deal with daily could care less about local politics as long as it doesn't immediately affect their golf game. But not being flip about it, but it is a challenge to keep them, and that's why we've been lately having people such as yourself and other leaders of the county come in and talk to our REC members. Every month at our meeting, we set the first part of the meeting aside for a local issue, such as we had you there to talk about voting for the presidential preference primary. But it is a challenge to keep people. They all want to be involved in the national politics, and yet there's very little to do with the national politics at the moment except talk about it. We need them to be thinking about local issues and local elections.
And that's so true. And the local issues and elections appear on the primary ballot. And traditionally, on an average in Martin County, which is on the high side, state average-wise, we only have a 35% voter turnout for a primary. Primaries, as you know, in the state of Florida are closed, which is very different from the northeastern part of the United States or other areas of the United States. When voters move in, they don't realize many times that they have to have their party affiliation in place 29 days prior to an election, especially for a primary, since we're closed. And that's one of the challenges that I face as supervisor of elections, is informing our voters, educating our voters about the importance of a primary election. And many of our locals those races are decided in that primary election. So I'm sure you probably feel the same challenge informing voters regarding primaries as well.
Yes, we spent quite a bit of time trying to get the word out to our people. In fact, you and I have had that discussion.
Yes.
We had several efforts that we made to get out to all the people that we possibly knew to get them to change their registration if they wanted to vote in the presidential primary.
Right.
I have some issues with the system. I'm not sure we've got the best thing going at the moment. I think that we probably there's probably two answers. One would be to open up the elections totally, the local elections, totally to everybody. And the other one is I would like to see the fact that you can't change from being a Democrat or a Republican or independent back and forth during the election cycle. I think that just adds to people playing games with the system.
And according to Florida law, they can change at any point,
Right.
29 days before, and then the next day after Election Day, they can switch back.
And in between the primary and the general election, they can switch.
Absolutely.
Which is where you can get some games being played.
Yeah.
But it makes it interesting.
It does. It does keep it interesting, doesn't it? Why is voting important to you, and who actually influenced you to take part in the voting process?
Well, I gradually got into it because when I moved down here, as I said, I came from Long Island. I wasn't into local politics there. I wasn't into it here. But I ended up, through one thing or another, being president of my POA, and then that led me into being in the Taxpayers Association and being president of that for a while. And that got me into the local issues, looking at what was happening in Martin County. And quite frankly, some of it I didn't like. And that got me into working the issues, and the next thing you know, here I am. It's over 20 years. It just, I got into the local scene, and hopefully we've done some good and got the Republican Party on track here.
Well, thank you for taking time to share your thoughts with us today, and being here to share with our listeners and viewers about the local Republican Party. Appreciate what you do, Don.
And our REC meetings are open to everybody. We're over at the Realtor Association training room at Monterey and Canner Highway on the third Thursday evening, 6 o'clock. We welcome.
Okay. Thank you, Don.
Thank you.
I'm Vicki Davis. Thanks for joining us for an episode of Project Vote History.